and good evening and welcome to Locked In Stitches. As always, I am Julie Hall and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening. Let me just make sure that our video is coming up clearly. Okay. And good evening, how are we doing today? Sorry, I'm just playing around, going back and forth to different places as we go through. Okay, so how's everybody's week been? Not a bad week here, although I do feel myself just fighting off, I'm hoping just a summer cold or the flu, and yeah, it's been an interesting week. I've spent my week with my fingers crossed, waiting for Grace's formal dress to arrive, and I had myself psyched yesterday that I was going to have to go out to Spotlight and buy fabric and just create her a dress on the weekend because it really hadn't arrived. So thankfully this morning the dress arrived. We've tried it on, it looks magnificent, so all is good in our little world. So I will be sipping all the way through just because I've got a really scratchy throat and I'm worried I'm going to be losing my my voice at some point. And I can see that we've got Gail Murphy with us and Pauline Stewart and Kimberly McKinnon. Good to see you, Kimberly. You're not down at Bendigo this weekend? I'm bummed that I can't be down at Bendigo this weekend. There is the Craft Alive if you're local to the area or you feel like a bit of a drive. Go and check it out. I am really bummed that I couldn't go. But then after being away last week down in Melbourne, I realised that I'm just not quite ready to be out and on for that couple of days. But I will be live on the stage tomorrow afternoon, and I'll be hosting classes in the Great International Craft Show classroom, which is again free. So do consider checking in, and I'll post up more about what I'm showing. But tonight we are going to stitch some dense designs, and you can see here I've done, of course, my good friend Bitchy. Diane Merrick, thank you for joining us. So this was my stitch out from Tuesday. And look, I was having a lot of bobbin issues, and I'll come in closer once we've got the stitching up and running and showing you exactly what was happening. And I've even got a sneak peek for you of the next one. So what I want to do is start off with showing you exactly how I set my fabrics up for stitching. So we'll come over to the hooping station, and what I've got is I've got tearaway and I've got my embroiderer's felt. And I'm going to be using my 5x7 hoop. Now, I've taken my fabric and I have starched and ironed it. Remember, this is all the different techniques pulling into one. You don't have to use them all. However, it will give you the best result, depending on the design, of course, that you are stitching out. Now, the first trick that I do is I then take another piece of stabilizer, and I don't know if you're aware, but your stabilizer has a weft to it. When they take the fibers and lay them down to create the paper, it has a line that it goes in. So we've got this piece of stabilizer laying in that direction. I'm going to turn that around and put the second piece in the opposite direction, and then I am going to come through, and you'll see that most everything is in the hoop. When you're doing a dense design, what you don't want is to not have enough fabric to be totally in the hoop, because that's when things are going to make it so much easier to suck in. And then we are going to hoop that tightly or firmly. And I can see we've got Rhonda with us. Thank you for joining us, Rhonda. And we've got Maxine Levinsandri as well. Thank you for joining us. So Pauline's asking, so is it one stabilizer under the fabric and then one on top? So both of these are tearaway stabilizer. And because the stitching that we're doing is so dense, it is just going to pull off like a template and you will not see it at all. If I was doing this on a t-shirt, now this would be quite a large design to use on a t-shirt. It would turn, it's just useful to know that it will turn your shirt almost into a chest plate. But if I was doing this on a stretch fabric, I would be using either an iron-on cutaway, or I would be using some basting spray and basting the cutaway to the back of the fabric. And that is again going to turn it into a non-movable fabric, so the fabric won't be able to stretch. And then I would be using tearaway on top there. And I can see we've got Barbara Evans as well. And then come over to our machine. And let me turn the lights off. So how's everybody's week been? Now, I have in my needle my wash away thread. So now I've got my 3 layers, it's in the hoop and it's secured. The next step is I'm going to come through and I'm going to do the perfect basting, which as we know is our diagonals as well, for extra security. So this is like your underwear. You know, we got the stuff that we wear every day and we're not too worried about. But then when you're going out, you know that you might need shapewear, you know that you might need a more structured bra to go with whatever outfit you're wearing. This is exactly what we are doing here. We are just giving the design the more structure that it needs. Then I can start with my first stitches. Okay, who else have we got? Diane Merrick. Yes, I think I've got 2 left, Diane, at that price. Good evening, Lynette from Cairns. And Rhonda's asking what size needle. Look, I'm using my standard 1175 needle. For me, it is less about the needle and it's more about the preparation, and then what I do, so it's more about the preparation and the products that I use and the speed that I use. What else have we got? Mark Crosby, thank you for joining us from Bucca in Queensland. I had a very late night last night. I could not get to sleep. So I stayed up watching television or playing a computer game, just feeling sad and sorry for myself. because I wasn't feeling great. And yeah, now I'm feeling even worse. But on the upside, I have a feeling I'm going to sleep beautifully tonight. Okay, so if you saw me on Tuesday, what you would have seen, and I'll leave that just to start stitching there at the moment. That's just going to do Lucy's hair. Just when I come in. Feel like a doctor. Okay. So, what happened on Tuesday, and you can just see it around here. You can just see the slightest amount of bobbin. Now, the design itself is still perfectly aligned up, and it was only those one grey and skin colour tones that it happened on up until I got up to the end bit. And what I've done, because it's worth noting, I like sharing where I stuff things up so that you guys know if it happens to you. So what I had done was I'd been cleaning out the machine, and I'd taken the bobbin case out and I'd pulled all the fluff off it, yada yada yada, made sure there were no burrs on it. What I didn't realise as I did that was a tiny piece of fluff got caught between these two little pieces of metal here, and that is what caused the crap stitching. That and the how tight the bobbin was. So every bobbin is different, and set yours for what it needs to be. And for what your bobbin fill is. I'm a huge lover of pre-wound bobbins. But if you're not, it's okay. Okay, so I am doing the Queen Lucy tonight because I stitched Bitchy Dust the other day. Today I'm doing the Queen, and I am going to change up her colours a little. So this is what Queen Lucy looks like. Now, the other thing to notice is I have not ironed these after they have been stitched. So you can see that there is no puckering coming along there because we've secured that fabric so well. And the same with these two. Now this was yesterday's stitch, and somebody was saying she looked like a nurse. She's actually Mrs. Claus. And the same that goes along with Mrs. Claus is, I'm sure I have it here somewhere. And then he says he went to his ex's house. Tried to say that it was part of his job. Now, next week I am going to be taking part in a with 12 other digitizers in a Christmas sort of a round robin sort of a thing. So I'll be giving you details on 12 other digitizers throughout the 12 days who are all offering specials for Christmas. Just to let you know, my special is going to be that my good friend here, Mrs. Claus, is going to be my free gift with purchase. The other one that I have, and you might have seen it this week, is the gorgeous Christmas tree. I'll come out a bit more. Okay, what do we got? Okay, Margs is asking, can I repeat what stabilizer? Tearaway stabilizer, Margaret. So, one piece that is placed in one direction on the bottom with then embroiderer's felt and fabric, and then another piece that is placed at a 90-degree angle to that on the top, all in the hoop together. And then we've basted using our wash away thread. Now, what I love about this, and I am such a textured person, is this is candle wicking, and you can feel the candle wicking on it. Now, I've done it so that it's going to come through in all sizes, and it is just gorgeous, and it is going to be our giveaway. So look out next week. I think this one will be there for you to download with the code on the 3rd of December. Okay, so let's see how we are going. Okay, that's looking quite nice. And I'm liking the texture that I've popped into things like the hair there. So is everybody ready for Christmas? Because there is officially 30 days today till Christmas. I've pretty well finished my Christmas shopping now. And Selena, thank you for joining us. Now I have to share, even if it means you're going to see my my messy door area. So that is Grace's formal dress. It's just come up looking beautiful. It's a weird weather day today, like we're getting rain every other hour, but it's quite warm and sticky as well. Okay, now when it comes to face, and I've gone through this one before, so we are going to use 3 colours. Whoops, helps if you hold it up. We are going to use 3 colours for our face. We are going to use the main face colour, and then we're going to highlight in just a different tone, and then we just want to do some really dark highlighting around the nose. But I always make sure I keep fairly large spools of skin colour. And I'm just trying to use up some stuff at the moment, to be perfectly honest. So next Thursday night, I will be regaling you guys with photos of my girls at their formal. Oh, hell no, Selena. No, thankfully I did not. For I think $110, I got it from a site called Zapara, Z-A-P-A-R-A. I was very, very concerned that it wasn't going to arrive in time and that I would end up having to make one, but no, I was blessed in the fact that it actually turned up. Okay. Now, the one thing with this stitching is that it is, and the joy of the dense designs, is that it is a fairly long stitch. So, what I was wondering, didn't you hate it when you do that? I've just lost something. Oh, there you go. I thought I lost my digitizer. Okay, Lee, Cronin, thank you for watching. Patricia Bradford. I'm embroidering, I'm embroidering onto the fabric, and I'll come through and show you exactly what I've got on. Sorry, I almost need another monitor. Okay, so this is my last stitch out, and it's still got all the layers together. So we start with a piece of tearaway. Medium weight, same tearaway that I use for 99% of my stitching. And I lay down my embroiderer's felt because I'm looking at using this as a quilt block. So it is worth having there just to add that extra bit of oomph. Then I've got my white homespun fabric, which I have come through and starched firmly with a warm iron. And then lastly, I've got another piece of tearaway at the opposite angle because our tearaway has a weft to it. Once I've done that, I've hooped all of those layers together, and then I've come through and I have stitched the basting line with wash away thread. The machine is going at 500 stitches per minute. And look, I could speed it up a little. So if I speed it up to 600, at the end of the day it only says it saves me in 5 minutes. We'll see how it goes. I'm not a huge fan of going above 500 mark. And you guys remember, if you saw me on Tuesday, you'll remember that I did put in a new needle. So it's got a relatively new needle in it. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So one of the things that I wondered is whether you would be interested. Fantastic question from Maxine. Maxine is asking whether Miss Rose's dress is done in with just red or a combination of both red and black. No, with red thread only. And I don't think, and yeah, I've only used white bob and fill on the back, so it's not even that, but it's the texture that I've put in there. Just giving the stitch that little bit of texture gives it so much more options. Oh, Patricia, I'm so sorry you're not feeling well, darling. That's never good, having a migraine. But what I wanted to show you, it does look a little bit like red with black zigzag. It's amazing how it tricks the eye. So what I wanted to show you while we're doing some basic stitching there is how I approach a design like this. So I've got my design here, and one of the ones that I've been asked to look at doing is a chef or a cook. So I come through and I start looking at the layers, at what I would need to do to build this design up. So the first thing that I see is that the hat would be at the back. So I would zoom in and come through and digitize. And I generally don't use white because it's too hard for me to see. And just using my left and right mouse clicks. And you always want to come in just that little bit so that the next set of stitches just overlap. So Marx is asking, do you get any fluffy bits on the outer edges? That all comes down to the quality of the tearaway. If you're using one of those really, really thick ones, you might get a little bit, but that's going to go away on its first wash as well. But other than that, no, I don't. Okay, so I've got a chef hat, and if I want to make that an embossed fill, for instance, I can come through and select the object and go into the embossed fill and just look at some of the different fills that I could use on my hat. It's one of those things that's great for adding a little bit of texture. It's not one of those things that you want to add too much of. One of my favourites is the triangle. And you can also, if you come through and choose your weave or your tatami fill, you can also choose different types of tatami fills to give you different details as well. And that's what I did on the Mrs. Claus. So it's all just ways to give little extra bits of detail. Now, as I start layering that up, what I find I need to do is switch off True View so that I can see where the rest of the design is. And the next part that I want to work on is her hair. And I'm going to do that in satin. Now, even though we've got the detail of the pigtail here, of the holder, each of these squares represents 1 centimetre. And if we were to add another colour there, other than of course our black outline, it could get really confused. So at the moment, I'm just going to keep that there as it is. Now, I'm going to show off. You know how you've seen something for years and yet never particularly paid attention to it? If you're anything like that. I had never particularly paid attention to branching because I was taught to do everything manually before all these newfangled things came out. And what I've got here is I'm just adding in my hair. I'm not going to do the eyebrows yet. That's going to come later. And if I come through and look at my objects, I can then paste those down, flip them over, and pop them on the other side as well. Now, as you can see here, and I'm just going to turn on so at the moment we've got lots of jumps and connectors. What I'm going to do is come through and select all of that colour and then go into Edit Objects and Branching. And what that's done is it's instead made it just a single jump between all of those designs. And our gal starts to get some detail. And let's have a look and see what we're up to with the Lucy Queen. So what's everyone up to this weekend? Oh, Rhonda, thank you for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend. Have I tried the Redwork tool? Hold on, let me... Okay. Barbara, you're going to have to tell me where the Redwork tool is. Shows there's always something new to learn. Jennifer Smirnov was going to go to Character Live. That's wonderful. I'm very, very jealous. Mars was supposed to be camping. That's okay. My father's just gone up to help his cousin. He's got to play farmer for a week. So he's gone to help his cousin with harvest. And of course, you know, New South Wales is getting hit by these rain bombs. Selena's going to be getting back into her sewing room. Oh, absolutely, I totally get it. Barbara Evans is asking, am I using Hatch or Janome Digitizer? This is Janome Digitizer, but it is the same as Hatch Wilcom Bonina. I've been very proud because I've been changing. I'll show you what I've done to you can see, as well as having my 500 or 550E, I've also put my sewing only machine down or up, so that I can come through, and while I'm stitching, I can be sewing. And I finished off placemats yesterday. I did. What else was there? Don't you hate it when you lose something, like your mind? Okay, there we go. Hatch has a redwork tool. There you go. I've never used a redwork tool, and again, because it's probably because when I started, everything was so basic. I just do everything manually. So my redwork tool is, just me going backwards and forwards. Okay, so that's our first colour done. And it's the same as I don't use the applique tool. And it's because I'm a little bit of a control freak and I like my applique better than what the machine gives me, and I want to be able to control exactly how that goes. Now with these guys, I'm using up all of my piddly little threads. Trying to just, get rid of some of the crappier ones that I have trouble throwing away. So where possible, and you'll notice. So for instance, the colour that I'm going to do the dress in is known for not being the best brand. So while we're waiting for the stitching to finish, I'm going to put some thread serum to get the little darling ready. We thought we were going to start Edward's renovation this week, but the guy who's doing it for us had one person who was got a hole in their roof on the weekend, and because the weather was supposed to be as it was, he put our job off, of course. But by the time we heard about that, we'd already moved everything back into the lounge room of Edward's stuff. So he's been at home for the last 2 days, and it's really, really sad, and I feel like a terrible person. But I'm so pleased he's going into the office tomorrow. Like, I've got Cameron at home with me. I've got, trying to not make any noise in the lounge room as well is just an awful lot of effort. I feel very good though. We went and we dropped off 3 bags of bottle recycling. So we had 200 bottles and cans. And I was pretty impressed because that was 200 exactly. And then we go for the slightly darker shade, which is going to be around the nose area. But I'm kind of thinking that the way I'm feeling at the moment, most of my weekend is going to be on the couch trying to, you know, doing the basic, just feeling sorry for myself with the cold sort of a thing. And I always wondered when I first started stitching, and we're going back to 2001, I always sort of wondered, like, oh, that's just such a small amount of colour. Why are we even bothering? And everything was outlined, and everything. It was such a different time in design. It's amazing how the tables turn, etc. Now, if any of the threads are going to break, it's going to be this one, because this is the crappiest of all of them. So we'll see how we go. Okay. Andrea Hooker, thank you for joining us. Oh, cool. Okay, I'll have to look that up, Barbara. I haven't seen it, but you've got me interested now. Michelle Reynolds, Daylight Savings kicked your ass again. Maxine's asking, are Janome Digitizer and Artistic Digitizer two different programs? Yes, they are. I have Artistic Digitizer, but I don't think I have it on this computer. So yes, they are two different philosophies, and the reason Janome brought out Artistic Digitizer is so that they had something that would work on Macs as well. So Andrea Booker, yep, I am in Canberra. Where are you, Andrea? Margs is saying she's doing the bitchy dust on a heavier material for a bag. Would I still use all of the layers and hoop, or would I float the top piece? That is a fantastic question, and a lot of that comes down to what you and your machine can do. So, if you're looking at, say, a denim or a drill or something like quite almost curtainy material. And Michelle Reynolds, I know you were doing some of these the other day. Let me find the pictures of the ones that you were doing. And you were floating it with, now you tell me, Michelle, were you using cutaway underneath or were you using tearaway? Look at, how much stuff you've got on, like on Messenger to somebody. It's always a wonderful thing, isn't it? Okay. So, if I tell Michelle's story here, this is one that Michelle did at a retreat the other day, and it was, a bag that she bought from Big W for I think $12. It was, and once again, it was like a curtain fabric. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that, Michelle. You floated and basted on the tearaway. And yeah, it had a really thin foam, almost like a curtain backing. Yes, canvas sort of a thing. So I think what really gave it the strength there, Michelle, and I know we've talked about this before, was that diagonal basting was just giving it that extra bit of oomph that it needed to hold it. So Margaret, I would not be using the felt behind it. Now Michelle didn't use the tearaway on top and has got a beautiful result. And it's really, these are all the tricks put in together. It's finding the ones that you need to use. And Andrea, one of the things I love about something like this is that we're able to be so, for lack of a better term, international, and it just means that that we can do so much. And again, I've got this was a test sew from somebody on the same bag, God bless Big W, with the saying on it, which I think just looks fantastic. Oh, I like how that's going. So, coming soon, we've got the Love Sewing design. And Lisa test sewed this one for me. And she popped it onto, once again, a canvas. Which was her sewing machine cover, which I think was fantastic. So, loving that. And this is another sign, which just needs a tiny little bit of a tweak. So I've had my little elves out doing my test stitching for me, which has been just wonderful. Now, the dress takes a reasonable amount of time. I am just loving that though. That's a very pretty colour. And when you're looking at it's probably a really good example. Thank you for reminding me by asking the question like this. I just want to have a very quick look and show you. Every stabilizer has its good and its bad points. And it's picking the right stabilizer for the right project. So, and what have we got here? Helen, thank you for joining us. Okay, Helen's asking, does it matter if you go flat out or at a slower pace for a dense design? Look, every machine has different abilities. I'm going at 600 at the moment, and that's kind of as high as I go. If your machine allows you to do more and it doesn't affect the quality of your stitching, then that's fine. But I would be very careful that it's not affecting the quality. And let me just... And where you'll know, and I'm not sure I like this, and I might turn it back down a little bit. Now, I don't know if this is because of that or just because it is cheap crack thread. But you can see there's, or you might not be able to see, but I can see, there's just the teeny tiniest little bit of a pull there. And 500 really is my favourite speed. So we'll see how that goes. Excuse me. Okay, so first one that I've got, tearaway. If you pull it in or along the diagonal, you will not be able to move that. That is the sign of a good tearaway. I know there are some there that are really, really lightweight. I like my medium weight, and it is the, if I need a heavy weight, I just use 2 pieces of this. Once again, at those opposite angles. What I've then got is my cutaway. And I love this cutaway because it's soft, it doesn't hurt when I use it on my, when I use it on t-shirts. However, watch what happens when I pull that along the diagonal. It's got movement. So, when you stitch, this is going to be able to be moved. So if I was doing a t-shirt, I would, with a dense design, and I would be worried that this will end up looking like a chest plate. But with any sort of a dense design, I would be using the cutaway, and I would be ironing that onto. Now, if you haven't got iron-on cutaway, and this is not an iron-on product, I use basting spray. I baste it, I glue it, and then I iron it onto the back of the design so that it stays there. I would then be putting my tearaway on the back of that so that it then does not move. Same with the question that I normally get when I'm working with this method is, why do I need tearaway on top? Can I just use a wash away? Again, your wash away has a lot of stretch, so it is not going to give us that pure stability. And you know, most times none of this is an issue, but it's when you're doing a dense design or when you are wondering why things aren't going right. Okay. And Michelle's saying she finds that thicker fabrics need a slower speed. Absolutely. And look, it's really for me just about doing the sexiest stitch that I can. And I find I get the prettiest, sexiest looking stitch on around 500. Michelle, we definitely do need to get you your tearaway. However, you do realise that it is in Ballarat at the moment. It's actually not even with me, but I can certainly replace it for you, my darling. Michelle ran a show for me in Queensland last year and left her tearaway with my stock. So my tearaway, and I've got 6 machines down in Ballarat. Yes, no-show mesh, absolutely. That's what I'm showing there, is the no-show mesh. I actually really dislike that heavy cardboard-like heavy cutaway. And the reason I dislike it is because Mum bought me a shirt with it on in the 90s, and it was a chest plate to wear. Like, she bought it from Western Australia, and she paid bloody good money for it. But it just left, both my sister and my chests looking like we had, cardboard stuffed up them. Oh, well, yes, I can give you a lot of things that you need to come and visit for, Michelle. I'm all good with that. And this is looking quite nice. Now, this is actually one of those interesting ones to teach on as well, because there is always the chance that we could get to the end here and mine is going to absolutely stuff up. It is totally all a crapshoot. The other thing that makes a difference is tension. And you guys have seen and you've been commenting on the beautiful Mrs. Claus there. Let me bring up another version that I stitched out at a friend's place the other day. Okay, so here is here's my Mrs. Claus, and you can see my stitching there. Yet there is absolutely no black in it, not even the bobbin on that was black. But what happened when we were doing leaves? So what we had here is we were basting, so that was the right thing to do. We lost and I'm going from memory here, what we found all the way through was that little bit of bobbin thread was showing, and you can see here as the stitches are forming just that white coming up, and that shows us that the stitching is too tight and that sucked in our fabric. As soon as I changed Lynn over to a different bobbin case here, look at how much nicer that stitching is looking. It just came up beautifully. So tension is the other thing that is going to change things. And Marg, it's funny that you asked that. I'm actually working with the lovely Michelle here, and trying to convince her. She holds a retreat up in Queensland each year, and we're trying to convince her to organise one for somewhere in either New South Wales or Victoria. Selena, I do think that's a good idea. You know, you really don't want to stab yourself with embroidery whilst you're trying to get to sleep. I had a lovely weekend though. I spent we went to Melbourne last week, and so hubby and I went and had fish and chips by the foreshore down at Portsea. We had a lovely time. And then nutcases. Then hubby threw a chip out. And of course every doll that was in Portsea came along. I've also this week, I've been doing a bit of a cleaner. So I got rid of my antique singer, which has sort of, been in and out of the house, and oh yes, we're going to restore it when we get time, yada yada yada. And I got rid of as well an old Adler typewriter. So I'm feeling pretty good about the amount of stuff that I got out of my house this week. And, that's the other thing. I don't know if I deserve a Wife of the Year award or whether I deserve to be stoned, but, and not in a good way. And good evening, Robin Jones. Thank you for joining us. We couldn't find anywhere to go for our holiday this year because, everything's just booked up. And that's okay. So Edward was saying he'd still like to go away camping with the children. So being the good wife that I am, I went and I found him a spot by the beach for a week, and he's taken the girls camping. And I don't have to go, so I'll be at home by myself. Well, actually, probably with Cameron as well. But near enough. Look, the singer was beautiful, Selena. It was one of those ones that got dusty while it's sitting out on the deck, but it did need some love. Certainly, it needed a new laminated top, etc., and so forth. And you just can't keep everything. It's, I loved owning it. It was our entryway table for a time. It was, but yeah, it was time to let it go. First time you've heard me say that all year. So I am very excited that I don't have to make a dress this weekend. The only thing I've got to do is she got a headband to go with it, and she wants me to bling it up a little bit more. And for anybody who is watching from the United States, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you are all very safe and well with family and loved ones. I love the concept of Thanksgiving. And for a couple of years there, when we had some really great neighbours, we would celebrate Thanksgiving. And, we'd make, the kids were all younger, and we'd make them go around the table saying what they were thankful for. Simply, I like the idea of Thanksgiving more than I like the idea of celebrating Halloween. The idea of being thankful can't hurt. It's so mesmerising watching that, isn't it? So we're just going to do the little sleeve next. Are you like me though? Are you sick of seeing all of the Black Friday things coming through? I feel like it's, you know, akin to cultural appropriation. You know, we don't have Thanksgiving. Why are we trying to celebrate Thanksgiving? Yeah, the Black Friday sales. Okay. Oops, I don't need to take the hoop off, Julie, you idiot. And I must say, I am really surprised that that did not break a thread. I will put that down to the thread serum, but it is kind of shitty stitching. And I'm putting that one down to crap thread. So now we're going to do the highlighting. And just giving her beautiful figure some definition. And for as much time as it does take to stitch this guy out, to stitch this darn out, like we've only got another 20 minutes left of stitching. And yeah, I can already tell that that's nicer stitching. Okay. Now, the joy of this is that we're now up to some of the colours that are a lot less stitching on them, but you know, does mean that we have to change our colours regularly. So the next up is Lucy's eyes. I know. And Monica Perry, thank you for joining us. Yes, they absolutely are for sale. Let me pop the link on to our little darlings. And Sharon Brown, thank you for coming along. So Mrs. Claus isn't there yet, but remember that she will be a gift with purchase next week. Now, in my mind, Lucy has to have blue or purple eyeshadow. And I think that's because I equate her to a woman of the 80s. And I can remember Mum was absolutely a demon for her blue eyeshadow. And I couldn't believe it when we were going through the... last time I was up at Dad's, I was going through her, all of her bathroom stuff. And along with 12 bottles of, 12 to 15 bottles of Avon talcum powder, never opened, I found the Mary Kay eyeshadow palette from 1982. Never opened. And yeah, Dad can't understand why we didn't want that eyeshadow, you know, why we didn't want the eyeshadow or the whatever's or the... I can remember in the late 80s when I was a teenager, I had a hairdresser who I thought was incredibly pretty, and it was, she would have the pink and purple eyeshadow, and you know, just blended beautifully. I can remember trying to emulate that and just looking like I'd been punched in the eye. Now, Monica, you've just used that that hand saying very, very well. I thought it was so funny this week. I found out, I always thought it was prayer hands, but I found out this week that that is actually the high five symbol. So, you know, if you're sending somebody prayers for a loved one, don't use that symbol. You know, sorry, blah blah's in hospital. Yay! Oh, good, Selena. I'm so happy it wasn't just me. I was pretty impressed that the emoticons were getting, you know, slightly religious. Okay. And now we're up to our last two colours. So this, whereas the other ones that I've done of this one, I've gone very bright yellow. I'm going to use a much more goldy gold for this one. And so that's the gold that I've chosen. Boyo paid for his first car today, so he's very happy. And then because he's been at home because he's finished school, he made donuts today. He felt like a donut, so made a nice big batch of donuts. Now, when it comes to the outline, I'm not a huge fan of the black. I find black just starts to look very, very dark. So instead, I like using the darkest brown or the darkest grey that I can find. And I find it just adds, it still gives the outline that you need, but it doesn't add any more harshness. Oh, we are good. We found it because we found a recipe for Krispy Kreme, and it's so long as you eat them on the same day because there's no preservatives, they're pretty darn good. Now these will not be eaten on the same day; they will be frozen. But not at all bad. Yeah, I'll kick the family out and we'll just have sewing. We'll just have it, make it a sewing house. I can live with that. Yes, Monica, the hand symbol that you used for the thank you, which was, lovely. Please don't think I'm sledging you in any way, shape or form. But it was really funny, and I read it because some celebrity or something had used it and was called out for prayers going to the family of XYZ. For the shooting or the something of their child, and they called her out for then putting the high five symbol on. Oh, I know, Maxine. It kind of sounds like the perfect place, doesn't it? Till you realise that, I'm no fan of housework, so I don't do that. I'm liking this gold. Gives it a, slightly different look. Tell Marty I'll send him the recipe if he needs it. Marge is saying, what am I going to do with my girls? Oh, when? Oh, I can send, the girls, the hubby, the kids. I can find somewhere to shove them. My sister's laughing at me because sort of we created Edward a little office space, but whereas I've got a 20 square metre space here, we put Edward in a 3 square metre space. Like, we've turned the entryway into his, and you really can't call it an office, that's just me. So instead we'll call it cubby. But, I'm making it larger, I'm getting it to, we're doubling the amount of space that he's got. And he does have a shed outside and I don't. Well, I got most of the garage. Yeah, I think I win the space war. I was watching something on telly the other day and I was thinking, how do we survive without the, or how did we ever survive without Google and the internet? Like, I was looking up meal ideas for the week. Oh, good. So I'm gonna do the wall hangings. So I'll show. So this is my chickadee with the saying. And what I would like to do is I'm going to do them up as the wall hangings, more for display than it sort of shows than anything else. But I would like to do a couple of bags with them myself, seeing how well everybody else's bags have turned out. Oh, you lucky people. Not that we want them to move out yet, but we were talking about when our kids, boot off. Okay, and we are up to the last colour. So for me, it is that very deep brown colour. And look, one of the things that stopped me from using black all those years ago was the Winnie the Pooh quilt that I did for my eldest niece. The black outline, because I was using truly crap thread, the black outline just killed me because it was all of the it was constantly shredding. it just was not nice. Selena's got one coming back home. Yeah, and look, I did that, Selena. I was absolutely that kid. I travelled overseas and then I'd come back home. I'd be, I'd take a job that was going to have a lot of travel in it. So, I'd come back home to avoid paying rent whilst I was travelling like that. Yeah, I was that kid. And Dad now jokes that he and Mum were talking about changing the locks when I moved in with Edward. One moving back with, oh that's right, yes, with 3 extras, yes. But at least that's only for a finite amount of time while they build their own home. And the one thing that this goes totally against what you're doing, Michelle, is I give you full credit for having your son and daughter-in-law and their 2 darlings come. I would hope that I don't end up in that situation, just because I think it's always best if there's only one boss. I mean, it depends on the personalities as well, of course. But I mean, I love my sister-in-law, but she drives me crazy. And that's just when she comes in the, for a weekend or so. Next Saturday is the most important day of the year. It's my birthday. So I think Edward's going to take me for a drive. The kids have been asking what I want for breakfast, what I want for dinner, which is lovely. And it's wrong when you say the mess cleaned up afterwards. That's what I want. See, what I really don't want is, Cameron's not a girlfriend. I don't think I would handle, that looks just horrible trying to watch that even there. I don't think I would handle, somebody with, who doesn't take the time to even say hello to us or things like that. Well, I'm going to be 49. I'm assuming he's a tad younger, Michelle. So I have to call my dad on my birthday, and I thank him for my name, because Mum named my sister and got dibs on that. So when she was saying names for me, and they'd narrowed it down to 2, Dad took point and said, no, I picked Julie for that one. So, well, no, allegedly she's not a girlfriend. She's a friend and she's a girl, but she's not a girlfriend. So, I mean, there is a good chance that my son is incredibly dumb and doesn't get that she's putting out vibes. He sits there, oh, I think she might be gay, Mum. Well, that's cool. I don't care what, but wouldn't you think you'd talk about that? Or, yeah, I don't know. I'm just a mother. I know nothing. And with these types of designs, it really is this final stitch out that gives the designs their all their features. So what did I come up with? I came up with a chef one. The other one that I've been looking at been trying to think of when I would use Grumpy Grandma. And I'm just not sure that Grumpy Grandma's a good one, because I think grandmas are supposed to be, you know, those loving. Oh, true, yes, we could use her on an apron. And I'm loving the line cook version of the cook as well. So now it's just all those little details. Oh, look, a lot of it is trial and error with thread as well, Selena. It's why I always buy the absolute best quality that I can afford in black, red and dark brown. Because these are the colours that, the darker the colour, the more it's been over-dyed. You know, when a first colour stuffs up, they over-dye it to something else. So black, brown and red are always going to be the most difficult colours to stitch with. No, I'm not going to do the words tonight. So when I'm doing words, and you can go either way. I don't mind stitching the words with stabilizer on the top as well, but it is a lot of pulling through. So it's not as necessary, but I would absolutely still use the basting. And you guys have seen, have you ever seen yourself stitching words? And because they are satin and there's so many of them, you do end up with a lot of pull around the design. And for instance, if you're doing words on a shirt, you end up with just a lot of puckering around that. So the basting will help you solve that. And of course the basting, remember, is a free one on the website. If I am on the website, I'll show you where that is. Here we go. So if this is our website, go into the free designs, and the first thing that comes up is the perfect basting designs. Okay, let's have a look at how she looks. I am pretty happy with that. Okay, that did not go well. Let me come through. Okay. So this is our Lucy, and I would trim that thread there and that one there. I would then come through, and I've just got a little spray bottle of water in my stash. And what I love is as soon as I spray this on, I smell all the ironing spray that I used. And I let that soak in for a second. And turn it over. And then you can just start pulling up that basting thread. So we don't care about the bits that have got stitching behind them. Make it so you're actually able to see all of that. And then that's all of your unpicking done. And you can just come through, and what you get is that stabilizer coming off like a slightly damp template. So there are no fuzzies around this. You can see there that it's all just quite nice stitching. And then, so that's the stabilizer template, which of course I'm just going to then chuck away. But loving how that comes. I think that looks really good in that red. It's still giving it that royalistic look. So very happy with that. Oops, and I think I've just gone blank there. Let me just, okay. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope some of that has been of interest to you, and that maybe you'll consider stitching a dense design for your next stitching project. As always, if you stitch something out, send us a picture. I love seeing pictures of what you do. Do check us out. I'll be doing a couple of lives with Craft Alive and Great International Craft Show this weekend, and I will post details of that. And of course next week, when we begin our designer hunt, and all 12 of those designers are going to be offering you a freebie. So so keep an eye out for that one. And of course the freebie that I will be offering is that beautiful candlewick Christmas tree. So until next week, have a stitching day, guys.